When I pulled off the cracked highway and onto the dirt road that led to my family's land, I felt a mixture of grief and resolve twisting in my chest. My father had passed away 6 months ago, and though his loss still weighed heavy on me, his last words echoed in my mind: "This land is yours now. Protect it. It carries our blood, our history, our roots." I had spent most of my adult life working out of state, far from the homestead, but now it was my responsibility to take care of what generations before me had built. The closer I drove, the more unease began to stir. I should have seen untouched meadows, the familiar oak trees, and my father's cabin sitting quietly by the creek. Instead, I saw rows of new cabins, 20 of them, lined like cheap motels in the middle of what used to be our pasture. I stopped the truck and stepped out, heart hammering. Strangers were walking in and out, carrying boxes, setting up lawn chairs, and acting like they belonged. I marched straight toward the nearest cabin. A man in khakis and a polo shirt intercepted me, clipboard in hand. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice dripping with that fake politeness you hear from salesmen. "This is my land," I shot back. "Who gave you permission to build here?" His smile didn't even flicker. "Sir, this property falls under the jurisdiction of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. These cabins are part of a new community project. If you have questions, you'll need to speak to our board." I clenched my fists. Homeowners Association. There had never been one here. This was my father's land, inherited legally. No one had the right to put so much as a tent on it without our say. I spent the next week digging through records. At first, it looked like the HOA had paperwork showing they owned development rights. They even had glossy brochures advertising vacation cabins for rent. But something didn't sit right. Their deeds were copies, not originals, and every signature from the supposed previous owner had been forged. My father's name was on those documents, but I knew his handwriting like my own. I hired an attorney, an old friend of Dad's, who didn't charge me a dime. Together, we went through courthouse files, probate records, and tax ledgers. And there it was, the receipts. Decades of tax payments in my father's name. The will that transferred the land directly to me. The official county survey marking boundaries no one could mistake. But the HOA wasn't going down quietly. When I confronted their board president, a sharp-faced woman named Karen, she sneered. "You don't know what you're getting into. We've already rented out those cabins. People are expecting vacations. Do you want to be the one to ruin families' holidays?" Her manipulation only made me angrier. "This isn't your land," I said firmly. "And if those families want to know who ruined their vacations, they can look to you for lying to them." They tried intimidation next. HOA, security, trucks followed me at night. Letters with threats showed up in my mailbox. One evening, I found my tires slashed. But my father hadn't raised me to back down. Finally, the day of reckoning came. I filed a lawsuit and walked into court with a binder full of evidence. Tax receipts, the will, notarized copies, county maps. The HOA came armed with lawyers in suits worth more than my truck. They looked confident, until the judge asked for original deeds. They couldn't produce a single one. I still remember the silence in that courtroom when the judge slammed his gavel. "This land belongs solely to the plaintiff. The HOA has trespassed, illegally developed, and attempted to defraud the court. Vacate the premises immediately." Within a month, those cabins were torn down. The strangers who had been lounging on my family's land disappeared, their vacation dreams exposed as a scam. The HOA itself was fined heavily for fraud, and Karen resigned in disgrace. Standing on my land again, the meadows stretching wide and free, I felt a deep calm. I could almost hear Dad's voice on the wind, proud and steady. "You did right, son. You protected what was ours." That night, I lit a small fire pit by the creek, just as Dad and I used to. The stars shone bright overhead, and for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about lawyers, threats, or fraud. I was just home. The lesson, though, stayed clear as day. Greed will always try to take what doesn't belong to it. But the truth, the receipts, the roots, the history, can't be erased. And when you stand up, when you fight with everything you have, justice will follow. This land was more than dirt and grass. It was memory. It was blood. And now, it was safe.